Hey, everybody, welcome. This is Dr. Levi with your show, The Dr. Levi Show. Today is April 13th, 2016. Beautiful day here in Los Angeles, California. So I hope and believe that wherever you are right now, today, you're making it a great day. Lot to celebrate here in Los Angeles. Well, one of the icons of basketball, an incredible man, Kobe Bryant, his last game is today here in Los Angeles. So, of course, the city is completely shutting down for Kobe. So, Kobe from the Dr. Levi Show, congrats. You did it. What an incredible, extraordinary career. Everything you've accomplished. And tonight, one other point about Kobe, if he makes one free throw tonight, he'll be one of 4 players in the NBA that have hit 10,000 free throws. Is that phenomenal? So, Kobe, you're an amazing man. We respect you here on the Dr. Levi Show. And more important, want to congratulate you on a phenomenal career. Another sports-related issue here in Los Angeles, Vin Scully, one of the announcers or the all-time announcer for the Dodgers, over 60 years, I believe 67 seasons with the Dodgers. We just renamed Exposition after him. It's Vin Scully Parkway, I believe now, which is also another great happening here in Los Angeles. So, as a sports fan, here at this show, the Dr. Levi Show, is about bringing you the best in entertainment news, of bringing the best in leaders in the community, advocates in the community. We're bringing you the best of empowerment, inspiration, and more importantly, to uplift you so you can live the best possible you. It's really about that. I want you to know and believe that the universe is conspiring for you. The universe is for you. So just know that your dreams, your hopes, your aspirations, all that you want, it's right here waiting for you to simply reach out and grab it and make your life wonderful. Prosperity, joy, great relationships, it's all yours. Just reach up, reach forward, and stop looking back. Looking back, there's nothing there. You always want to go forward. So with that said, the best to Vin Scully and, of course, to Kobe Bryant. And I want to thank you, the viewers, all my YouTube subscribers. Right now we're almost at, I believe, 16,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is fantastic. I want to thank the gaming community. I'm Dr. Levi, the gamer's doctor, the esports doctor. So I believe in that community. I believe in the gamers. Why? Because they're athletes. And gaming, if you think about it, to me, there's the art and the science of gaming. So as a physician, as a surgeon, my goal is to do what I can to help the gaming community, and more importantly, to help maintain their health and their upper extremity health. That's the rub of it all. Well, I want to tell you about our guest today. We had a great show last week, too. I want to comment about that briefly. So Jeff Bosley was on the show last week. He's one of Hollywood's up-and-coming leading men. So I got a lot of great comments about how great he was, how much he really enjoyed what he said. So I want to thank him again. That's Jeff Bosley at jeffbosley.com. He did a lot last week. He was really funny, authentic, just a great, great guest. So thanks again, Jeff. So today, our guest is someone who is making a difference in the community. He is the founder of a foundation that is really what I would say making inroads to helping what I would call a very disenfranchised part of society. He's doing his best to know and understand that everybody is a part of society and everybody has value. So if someone has been incarcerated or if they've made a mistake in life, well, he's making sure that we understand that they shouldn't be penalized for their entire life. It's a mistake. Now we move forward. And more importantly, we have to embrace them to bring them up so that they can do what they're meant to do here for society. So I want to thank Clyde Terry. Welcome, Clyde. Glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's really wonderful. I want to hear about you. Before we talk about your Emerging Leaders Academy, I want to talk about you. I know you're from Indiana.
Yes.
So what was that experience like coming from that state?
Well, from growing up in Indiana, my parents moved from Alabama to Indiana. And
yes.
And I tell people how I ended up in my work is my parents, my grandparents, and my relatives. They were part of the civil rights movement.
Yes.
Everybody knows Selma to Montgomery, but it actually happened in a city called Marion,
yes.
Alabama, and that's where my parents are from. And when they were kids, they sat in a room with Martin Luther King.
Did they really?
Martin Luther King was 20-something years old.
Wow.
With like 20-something people sitting in the room figuring out how they're going to change the world.
Yes.
And I think, and they moved to Indiana to get away from, segregation and racism
yes.
and all that stuff.
Yes.
So I grew up there, but I spent a lot of time with my grandfather down in Alabama, and so I got a lot of Southern ways. And,
of course.
And my grandfather's deacon in the church, and
Yes.
a leader in the community.
Right.
And so I think I bring a lot of those
traits,
with
those
me,
attributes.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Now, did you have brothers and sisters, or you were only child?
I'm an only child.
Oh, you really?
I had a brother that was born prior to me, but he died prior to my birth.
Sorry to hear that.
So yeah.
Well, glad that you're here. Now I want to know about your journey from Indiana here to Los Angeles.
Okay, well
I want to hear about that story.
That's kind of a journey.
Right,
okay,
right.
So, I grew up there, and I always had this desire in my mind. I said, I was looking through a magazine one day and said, I'm going to make $50,000. Right. To me, that was a lot. I mean, maybe a lot now for some people, but it was a lot then, right?
Yes.
And so, but I wasn't a very good student.
Yes.
And I understand in the work we do now that my uncle told me, if you're not like me, then you won't get ahead. It's what I heard.
Right.
What he said was, get an education like me so you can thrive, because education will make a difference.
Of course it does.
Well, I didn't like him too much. So
Right.
So I began to, and when you understand this, as we talk about, what we're going to talk about later, is that then I began to push away school, but I love to learn.
Yes.
Right. And so I was on a path that wasn't really a good path, and I knew that I was going to get in trouble, so I joined the Marines.
Yes.
So I graduated from high school on Wednesday, Thursday. I was on a plane to boot camp.
Really, and that's the ultimate discipline there. Marines, Green Berets. I mean, it's not a joke.
Well, I didn't. But the real thing, I didn't even go join the Marines to join the Marines. I thought, so at 16, my hormones kick in,
right?
And I think, I see an Indian wedding on PBS, and I think, oh, the women in India are beautiful. I want to go to India. So, if you crack my head open, women would have fell out. That was my drive in life, right? And so then I see James Bond, and they're in Rio de Janeiro, right? And I see the women, and it's Carnival.
Right.
I see the women in Brazil. I'm thinking, oh, the women in Brazil. Now, if you had put a gun in my head and said, tell me where those places are, I'd have been like, shoot me, because I had no idea. I lived in Indiana. Nobody in my family had ever been on an airplane.
Really?
I didn't know, this is the 60s, 70s, so we would have to pack food in a shoebox. We put aluminum foil in a shoebox and pack it, and then, because you couldn't stop once you crossed in southern states, they wouldn't really serve you. Right, so you had to bring your own food. So you would get off, get gas, and get back on the freeway. You didn't want to venture too far into cities.
Right,
and so my experience of travel was from Indiana to Alabama.
So very limited.
Yeah, very limited. And so nobody had talked about flying on the airplane, but I knew that if I wanted to get to India, right, I did have a common sense to know that if I'm gonna get to India, I need to be on an airplane. That's how I'm gonna get there.
Right.
Now I didn't know where it was, but I knew that I needed to get on an airplane to get there.
Right.
And then Brazil, airplane. Then I used to come in. I don't care what we were doing. It was snow. I don't care what we was doing. If we were playing street Olympics, street athletics, whatever it was, at 22, we always went home and watched the Soul Train line, because that's where all the hot women were, on the Soul Train line, right? So this is my hormones, right? And
so everything women driven, basically.
So I go to join the Marines. I go to join the Air Force, and the Air Force recruiter's not there. When I turn around, I bump into the Marine recruiter.
Yes.
He starts talking to me, and then he puts this. I'm like, man, I'm joining the Air Force, because in my mind, they have airplanes.
They can fly.
That's how I'm going to get to these places, right? Yes. And he puts the uniforms in front of me. I go, I'm going to Marines. And I go tell my friends, and my friends said, dude, you want to fight everybody. You always in trouble. They're going to kill you.
Right.
So I went back and joined the Marines, because my attitude was, don't tell me I can't do something. I'm going to prove to you, right?
So you have to show them that you could perform.
Yes, but it was the greatest move I've ever made in my life. Because,
and why is that?
Because when I went to the Marines, one was disciplining structure for me.
Of course.
Right? Being that my father wasn't there, it was a great disciplinary structure for me. Then a year later, I'm in India.
Where you wanted to be.
Yes.
So you called it forth, and it materialized.
Yes. And so really, talking about manifestation and calling things forward and having intention.
Absolutely.
We all do it. We
do. Voluntarily or involuntarily.
Absolutely. Right. And so then when I'm in India, I'm talking to this lady all the time who was Brazilian. She was married to an American diplomat.
Yes.
And my first choice from India is Brazil.
So you got to both places?
Yes. And then I leave Brazil, and I forgot to tell you Hawaii 5-0 was one of my things when I was a kid. So then I get, then I leave there and go to, so I was supposed to go to Sweden, which was one of my other ones, because I called my father's magazines, and instead of women in Scandinavia, I wanted to go to Scandinavia, right?
Yes.
Well, I got bumped from Sweden, and I went to Switzerland, but I did travel Scandinavia.
Yes.
And Now you got to get this is from a person who knew nothing about the world. I knew nothing about geography.
Had not traveled.
Right. If you had told me this is how much I didn't like school, if you would tell me where the East Coast or the West Coast was, I'd have been like, I don't know.
Right.
Right. I just didn't know.
Yes.
Right.
You didn't.
Because it was irrelevant to me.
Right.
And so I end up in India, Brazil, Switzerland, Hawaii, and then Soul Train music thing. I wanted to come to LA. Well, I come to LA. When I come to LA to apply for the sheriff's department,
Yes.
I run into Queen Latifah and Gary Grant, and Queen Latifah gives me passes to the Soul Train Music Awards, and that was it. That's how I ended up in LA.
Full round,
yes,
full
yes,
circle.
Yes.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now, what about going from Soul Train Music Awards to being a sheriff for 24 years and being a Marine?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of juxtaposition there.
Well, I think the Marines was an easy transition because it held a level of integrity, and I got out of the Marines as a gunnery sergeant.
Right.
So
and one other thing, what did your parents think about that when you said, what did your mom think specifically when you said you were going to join the Marines? What was her thoughts about that?
she was scared because everybody told her Marines were crazy, and I was gonna come out crazy, and all this, and I would get killed because we were the first to go to combat. Well, there's no wars going on at the time, so But my mother was like, "Look, I believe in you." One thing my mother never did. My mother didn't have the capacity, and I don't mean that in a negative way. She couldn't tell me much about the world because she didn't know much about the world.
Right.
But she knew what was in front of her.
Right.
Right. And she knew that there was always going to be a way.
But she supported your dreams.
Yeah. Well, she just said, whatever you want to do, baby, you can do it. Be the best at whatever you're going to do.
She's right.
Be the best at whatever you're going to do.
Yes.
And I think that was more valuable to me than telling me what I could do or telling me what I, and
Could
it was
not
far
do.
more important than what I couldn't do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so, but I've always had this feeling of the experience. As a kid, I used to always tell people like, well, you don't, this, because in our communities, we begin to minimize things and say, well, you know what, you don't need to fly anyway because them things fall out of the sky.
Right.
But the reality is you stand more of a chance of getting in a car accident than,
Exactly.
But I would always tell people if the plane crashed, I would be the person to tell you how it crashed.
Right, exactly.
Because I would be the survivor.
Right.
So that's always been my belief and kind
Yes.
of where, I don't know where I got that from. I just,
You just have it.
Just have it, yeah. And so I'm in Hawaii, and we're just come out of the field, and I never thought about being a police.
Right.
Never thought about being a police. If you said, give me 1,000 things you would do, that wouldn't have
That
been
wasn't
it.
on the
If you
list.
said, write one more, it still wouldn't have been it, right?
Right.
Just what I got pulled over by Honolulu police, and the guy for lack of registration.
Okay.
Excuse me. And I have my registration because you can't get on base without a
Card.
Without a sticker, right?
Right.
You can't. And so I said, I have all my stuff. I said, somebody must have taken it while we were in the field, but I have the receipt. He goes, you're lying. And being in the military, you don't challenge law enforcement.
Yeah, integrity. Like that.
Yeah.
You don't say much.
And so I was like, I got to the point where, because we're going back and forth, and I'm like, F you.
Oh.
By this time, his partner's pulling up, right?
Drama.
His partner gets up and sees what's going on. His partner tells me, man, go. Because he gets it,
Right.
So I go to get in my car, and there's a homeless black man sitting on a wall at Jack in the Box. I'll never forget this.
Right.
I'm Gary turned down the Waikiki, down the Waikiki Strip.
Yes.
And he walks by me and he says, brother, if you don't do something about it, you're part of the problem.
Quite a statement.
Right. Now, I wasn't trying to hear.
Right.
I wasn't trying to hear none of that.
Right.
I had a few words I didn't say it to him, but I had a few words in my mind for him. But I was going to party, so that kind of went away. And then Monday, my buddy walks in, drops Navy Times on my desk. I open it up, full page ad. LA County Sheriff's is hiring.
Right.
And something said call. I called. They said, come out. We're doing testing. I had enough money. I had like $400 on one credit card and like $100 on another credit card, but the ticket was like $428 or something like that.
But enough to get from there to LA.
So they let me they let me put all the money on the one credit card and then the remainder on the other credit card.
Wow.
Now I had no place to stay because I didn't know anybody in LA. I had no car. I had nothing. I didn't know anything about LA really.
Right.
That weekend, me and my buddy went out. We met this girl from LA who was working for the sheriff's department, who said, you can come and stay with me.
Wow.
I came out here, I took the test and did all that, and the rest is history.
I mean, you were there for 24 years. That's an extended career.
Yeah.
I mean, what made you stay there so long? I mean, did you love it? Was it a passion for it? Did you feel like you could stimulate some type of change while being a part of it?
Absolutely. When I went, I put myself in it full-fledged, but I put myself in it from a grunt, go-getter, for the people, mentality. So
Yes.
I didn't really care about the gangbanger. I didn't care about if you were a criminal, you were a criminal. Because when I was a kid, somebody broke in our house and stole all of our Christmas gifts.
That's rough.
Burglars, I didn't like burglars. I
Right.
was molested as a kid when I was in the 5th grade. So I had a thing towards
Child
predators. Yes.
Right.
And so so I felt it was my duty to make sure that I handled those crimes specifically.
Right.
The vehicle thefts and stuff like that. You know, the other crimes, we just deal with them how we deal with them. It's never personal.
Right.
Those crimes though were personal to me because they resonated with me.
Because it was you had been a part of
yes.
that type of problem.
Right.
Basically.
That violation.
Right.
And so we would chase a guy. You take a guy to jail for murder, for assault with a deadly weapon,
Right.
and it was like, okay, when's the next thing? It'd be like, when's the next high,
Right.
And it was never it.
Yes.
And I worked in Compton, I worked in Watts, I worked in those areas, and my thing was I never forgot who I worked for. I worked for the people.
That's
I just get
number
to
one.
I get to do it through the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, but I work for the people. I
Right.
never forgot that.
Right.
And I always had this connection with people, but I had a judgment, and my judgment was that criminals, right, they didn't care about our people. They only cared about themselves. And so I had no love for them, had no compassion for them. And
Which
so,
is not necessarily true at all.
Right. And it wasn't until that view got altered that I created my program.
So you had this internal paradigmatic shift about non-judgment, basically.
Right. Yes.
And about being more compassionate, more loving for those who break the law, basically.
Right. So I moved from judgment to discernment.
Right.
Not ever excusing why you did the crime or the crime you did, but understanding that maybe you need help. And if that's all you know, if that's the only conversation that you're privileged to, then you can't talk about anything else.
Right. Because they don't might not know any better.
Right. So people who want to make money, broke people who want to make money, they have broke conversations about people wanting to make money, not the conversation of people making money.
Of course,
right?
Of course.
Two conversations about money, but distinctly different.
Right.
Right. And so there was people in the community that wanted to do better. So I'm sure you'll understand this, and some viewers may not be able to understand this, but I'll kind of break it down. I began to learn that we focus on the behavior, not the person, because the person and the behavior are two distinctly different things.
Very much so.
And so when a person goes and does something, their intention may be good. The behavior isn't.
Yes.
So a guy goes and robs somebody, and please understand, I'm not saying robbing somebody is good.
Of course
not. But
not.
a person goes to rob somebody, the intention may be, I need to take care of my family.
Right. I need to eat.
Yes, I need to eat, not realizing that I just violated somebody else to do it.
Absolutely.
Right? So the behavior is what we're dealing with. The intention, I understand the intention, but that's just not how you do it.
Right.
Right. It took a big shift for me to get that.
Right.
And regardless of how people feel about Sheriff Baca had this thing that we can't arrest our way out of all the problems. That in reality, we only arrest 3% of all the crimes that happen in Los Angeles County. There's 14 million people in Los Angeles County. 97% of the crime that happens in the city never gets caught.
Right.
Because there's
resources, number one.
Yeah. There's only 30,000 police officers in the whole county, and then you split that by 3 shifts. You split that by days off. You split that by people who are on specialized units who don't answer calls. So people answering calls for service are very limited.
Right. It's minimal.
Yeah. So when they say it's a thin blue line, it's really a thin blue line.
Right.
Now, how I got to emerging leaders from being a grinder, being a cat out there chasing, looking for that,
looking for the next high, adrenaline high.
Yeah. A young kid. I was about to get off shift, and a young kid. A call comes out. Any units in the area of 132nd and Slater, in the city of Compton. And I said, well, yeah, I roll to it, and I get there, and there's a male black laying at the back of a car, and there's blood, a big puddle of blood, because they'd been shot in the back of the head.
Right.
But we do what we do. Hey, man, go over and go do your interview. Door knocks. Let's see if we get some witnesses so we can put this out and kind of catch the criminals. Well, as I walk around the car, wow. As I walk around the car, there's this 7-year-old kid laying there.
Yes.
And he's looking up at me, man, and he's got water in his eyes. He's not like crying, like, but
he's full.
Yeah, but the water is just running out of his eyes, and he's looking at us like, what just happened to me?
Right.
And this kid's got this look on his face like the will to survive.
Right.
Now, why does a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, or something like that, why does he have that? Right? Like, and it was the first time in my life, Dr. Levi, I had ever felt helpless.
Right.
I felt like, why am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I doing this job? Because we're not making a difference. I came on in 1991. We had 18,000 people in custody. Here it is 2007. We got 18,000 people in custody, 19,000 people in custody. Evidently, we're not doing something. We're doing something wrong.
Right.
Right. So whatever my message was to God, the creator, the universe, whatever, I said it. And I got the answer.
Right.
And we get to the hospital, and I'm holding the kid's hand.
Now,
I mean, I'm not holding the kid's.
What happened to the child? What happened to him?
Well, he ultimately dies.
He does.
He dies.
Okay.
And so that became my new quest. That was the bifurcation point for me, I guess.
It was a fork in the road.
Yes, it was the turning point for me.
Right.
And I said I was going to do something. I hadn't. And so in my thinking is like, who am I? Right? I don't have a position where people are going to listen to me as a leader. I don't have the money to do it.
And what about this? Why do you think internally that was such a pivotal change and shift for you? I mean, you see many other people die in 24 years. Why did that one single solitary issue change you to say, you know what? I have to do something different. I have to be more of an advocate. I have to be a leader of change. I have to bring forth something different. Why was that such a pivotal moment for you, though?
That's a good question, and I just, the only thing I can attribute it to is it being God's, my mission, my assignment.
So it's like grace,
right? Yeah, because here's the thing. I had just come back from Iraq. I was in Iraq as a police advisor. So I went there as an international police advisor. I didn't go as a military. I went there, and my team ran the most missions. We ran more missions than anybody in the country the year that I was there. I created the team from nothing.
So again, you saw a lot there also.
Yeah, I saw people blown up. I seen a whole bunch of people killed.
Right.
Body parts here, body parts here. So I wasn't affected by it like that. It's like, okay, this is a job, and death was included in the process.
Right,
So
right.
if it happens, it happens. So when I came back, I'd seen a lot of death in Compton. I mean, you worked there. I mean, and where I'd worked.
Anywhere in Los Angeles.
Yeah, you're going to see it, right? So I probably averaged a shooting or a murder, like at least a shooting every week and a murder at least every month. Right. So it was nothing new. It was just something about this kid's spirit that touched me that was maybe God's way of saying, Clyde, it's your time.
And I'm curious, when you saw him, did you see a part of you in that child?
I saw my child.
Yeah.
My son was 7 at the time. And my son is autistic. He's high functioning. But I thought, what if my son's walking down the street by the simple fact that he's a black man walking down the street and he doesn't understand what someone, like, where you from, cuz, where you from, blood, or where you from, Holmes, like, because he doesn't understand that.
Right.
He gets shot just because of the color of his skin.
Right.
And his mother likes fashion, so she puts red strings in his shoes or blue strings in his shoes or red and blue strings in his shoes, and now somebody's confused.
Yeah, and she doesn't understand.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm thinking, like, why does my son even have to be concerned about what color he wears?
Right.
Why does he have to be concerned? Like, why as a black male do you have to be concerned about what color you put on, especially in certain parts of the city?
Because of the gang affiliation.
Yes.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, if I can complain about it. So going back to the brother in Hawaii, right?
Yes.
So all this is tying in. If I can complain about it or I can do something about it.
Right.
So let's do something about it. Now, I don't know what that something is.
Right.
I have no idea. I don't even know where to start, right? And Pete Carroll has an organization called A Better LA.
Yes.
And so I went to one of the trainings, and somebody says, because I was talking about The Secret, and somebody says, well, we teach a class like that, right? And I said, okay, well, where's it? I went to it, and my unit, the new unit I just transferred to, was actually teaching the class, and the guy who was teaching the class said, well, I would love for you to come and facilitate with me because I need some help. So I go to the class, and I guess whatever I say, the facilitators, they're down from Seattle, and
Yes.
so they're impacted by what I said. They said, you know what, you're going to do our gang intervention stuff. And I was like, what? Because I was saying, this language doesn't translate very well in the streets. You need to figure out a way to translate this to the streets. I go, well, you get to do it, right? And so
sign you up.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and then there was a lady who told me, she said, look, I think you're too hard on them. And I said, I'm too hard on them. She says, well, they're black, and you got to understand. I said, well, hold on a second. I've been black for, at that time I was 44. I said, I've been
Right.
black for 44 years. I think I have the black thing down. Right. So
Right.
I said, so they understand it, and I'm holding them accountable.
Right.
Because if we don't hold them accountable and they're still pushing the gang line, then that's how people get killed. That's how people get hurt, because they can't tell the difference between interventionist and somebody who's still pushing the line.
Right.
So we ended up having some odds, and I said, you know what, maybe this is my time, and as soon as I walked out, the thought of emerging leaders showed up.
So the ELA came from that.
Yes. But here's the thing I tell people all the time, like, all this equipment that we're sitting in front of, our cell phones, all that was available in the 14th century. There's just no need for it, right? And until there was a need for it, it came forth, right? So emerging leaders is always there. I just discovered it, right? And so
now tell us about emerging leaders, because that you started in 2014.
I started in 2009.
2009.
June of 2009.
So now that you look at your mission with doing that program, what do you want to accomplish with that? What's your final line where you want to go with that?
My commitment and my accomplishment, my commitment to this is, how do we take and expand the consciousness of people? Because see, here, I didn't know. I had traveled the world and I'd seen this, but I still had that I can't do this because I'm black. I can't do this because society has said.
So you were feeling limited by societal norms that you let them become one part of you, even though they're not real.
Even though
they're false.
Even though I had evidence around me, to show me that wasn't the truth.
Right. The difference.
Like I made it to the sheriff's department, and I wasn't. I barely made it out of high school. Right. So I did go to school, but I barely made it out of high school.
Right.
And now I went to the Marines and excelled in the Marines, but I barely made it out of high school. Right. So I had all the evidence in the world to show me that everything that I was saying about the narrative or
was not true.
Was not true. Right. But I'm in this on my own personal discourse about what life is, and because I'm listening to the agreements that exist in our community and the world, that I can't because, and there's always a glass ceiling, but I always broke the glass ceiling, but still believed that I
weren't cognizant that you were doing it.
Yes. And so I started to say to myself, like, if I understand this now, how many people of color don't get that?
Or how many people in general don't get that? I don't think it's a color.
Well, where I was in that moment was, because what I was looking at is black and Latinos.
Yes.
I was looking at black and Latino people in a city that are killing each other and don't even understand why. They bought into an agreement, don't even understand why, right? And so I was like, if we could get them to understand that. And so I started teaching these principles, how to make things happen, but first getting in my mind that I'm the one that's holding myself captive.
Absolutely.
Right?
And what was the receptivity like initially when you started this? Because don't forget, Emerging Leadership Academy is about helping people who have been incarcerated. Those, again, as I said earlier, I think the word most appropriate, at least in my head, is disenfranchised part of society. Those who are thought of being less than, those that are dismissed, those are thought of being a plight to society when they're really not.
Right.
People who commit crimes, they're human beings.
Right.
And they should be treated with love, compassion, receptivity, respect. They may have made a mistake, but they're still a human being. It's somebody's son and somebody's daughter.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a thing for me, was that I began to see that they're not that. But when I went to do it, though, Dr. Levi, the people told me, bruh, you the police. They ain't gonna listen to you. What you got to say? And a dude he's a G, well known, and he's been on a few shows, and he bought his son, because we were just doing a beta, we were just testing it to see how it's going to work and how to deliver and just some input.
Right.
And so he bought his son, and his son was playing college football, and his son said, so the dude says, man, you know what? Cats ain't gonna want to hear from you, man. You the police and blah, blah, blah. And they ain't trying to hear that. Your message is good. I get your message. I feel your message.
Right.
But, bro, ain't nobody gonna try to hear that because you the police. Right. And that kind of did a little something to my confidence, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll overstep myself. Yeah, I'm overreaching. And then his son said, well, Dad, everybody ain't trying to hear what you saying either.
That's so true.
Right.
Exactly right.
And he's like, because everybody ain't trying to be in that world. I'm not trying to be in that world. And I get stuck in it because you a G and everybody know I'm your son.
Absolutely.
And for me, that gave it back to me. But it was, it was God's will in that moment. Like, I needed to hear that.
Absolutely.
So I got both sides of it.
You need to hear it from him.
Yeah. And so I went forward, and I started off with 4 people. Right. And now here we are. That was 2009.
2009, yes.
2015, 2016, we're at 1,500 people.
It's fantastic.
Right? And so.
And your focus again are on which types of individuals specifically?
Our target
and your demographic is from what age wise?
Age wise, we'll take them as young as 16.
Yes.
To God calls them.
Got you.
Right. So I mean, because we have people that have been in prison for years, and
right.
we'll take them.
Because you believe then at your core that everybody can be rehabilitated, and it sounds like you also believe that everybody should be given some kernel of hope, so that whatever their gifts are, society should embrace them.
Right. Well, we get them to understand this because everybody has a gift, and if I'm one in a million. I got it. I'm here for a divine purpose. I'm here for a purpose. So everybody, when you get them to get that you are here for a purpose, because if not, you wouldn't have made it.
That's true.
Right? So do you believe that you were here to spend the rest of your life in prison? No. Okay. Now, here's the thing. We tell them emerging leaders can't give you anything. All we can do is remind you of who you've always been, just who you forgot you were.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so I tell them, our curriculum, that's not the class. The class is in the class, because when you begin to share and uncover and unconceal the things that have trapped you in the world that you've been trapped in. So if you, if you're a young girl and you're battling with weight, and you get that when you were a young girl that people molested you or touched you inappropriately, that weight became your protector. Right. Then when you understand that, you don't have to struggle with the weight. And it can start to fall off because your unconscious mind is releasing.
Absolutely.
And so it's getting people to get back to where they lost themselves. And so our work is really to get people back to where they lost themselves.
You want them to find themselves again.
Yes. And so that's been our focus. And as we grow and as I evolve, we're able to get deeper into the process and release people with a lot more velocity.
Yes. Yeah. One thing I think is great also, because you're training as a hypnotherapist, as someone who's also trained in neuro-linguistic programming, I would believe that all of that helps you to really reach them on a deeper, more profound core of understanding, because you know who you are.
Right.
And I think when we know who we are, we can help people understand who they are, their authentic self.
Right. And here's the thing, and I tell them in the journey, I know who I was yesterday.
Right.
Today is still a new discovery because life is happening and unfolding in front of me right now all the time.
Of course.
And so then in taking the skills, I can't do what I did today to have today unfold, because today is a new challenge. And as I evolve, as I elevate, that I'm going to be dealt with a new challenge. I'm going to have to build a new strength.
Absolutely.
Because I was strong yesterday, right? And I tell them, you can't come in here. It's like going to the gym and working out. They give you that 90-minute workout where they give you a trainer, and you might be sore for a week, but that don't mean you're going to be fit for life.
No, it does not.
You got to get back in the gym and work it out. It's a lifestyle, right?
It is.
And so how you've become in your life to this point is a habit.
Absolutely.
Now we just want to create new habits.
Absolutely.
Because the analogy we use in the program is that we're wood chippers. The wood chipper, the machine.
Oh, I know exactly what it is.
So you don't get mad at the wood chipper when you put paper in and it spits out paper. You don't get mad at it when you put a computer in and it spits out a piece of computer. You don't the machine is just doing what the machine does.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so if you want quality wood chips, you put quality wood in.
Absolutely.
Right? And then the wood, and so I go, so do you understand that if you're the wood chipper, where's the problem?
Right, exactly.
And they get it, right?
That's a very powerful analogy.
Right. And so when they get that, they go, okay, so our goal here is to really have you put new information inside and then start to see the results of that. But we have to first distinguish what's not you.
Right.
So we go, the analogy they use with David. Who did David? Michelangelo?
Oh, yeah, Michelangelo. Yeah, okay. David, it's in the Pieta. Yeah, exactly.
So they said, how did you know? He says, well, I did. He says, David was already there. I just chipped away everything that David wasn't.
Exactly.
There wasn't David, right? And so we tell him, everything that you want in life is already there. We're just chipping away all the stuff that you're not, all the stuff that you've been holding on to, that you made up, that you didn't even make up, society gave to you.
Right. Because they just overheard it and they believed it.
Yes. And so it's to get rid of the old beliefs and create something new. Yeah.
Well, what tools do you give them? Because the Emerging Leaders Academy is really about integrity and about leadership and about empowerment and education. So what are the things that you give them as tools to break some of those habits in a 30, 60, 90-day plan? What do you do for them?
Well,
Because it has to be profound because it's integrated with them on a cellular level to do some things that are not considered societally correct.
Right. So what we do is we do a lot of misdirection. So we send them, so it's usually in language. So we go, your life is empty and meaningless, it's empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless, and it's empty and meaningless. And they go, what do you mean? Right? And they're trying to figure that out. And they go, no, what are you saying? My life don't mean anything. So while they're so busy doing that, then we bring them back and go, life itself has no meaning. Life is meaningless. Because if it did, everybody would have the same meaning in life. So life happens before us. In that void, we now give life a meaning, and that's what it means for us. It doesn't mean that for everybody.
Of course.
Right? And then they go, oh, wow, they get it. Right. And then they go, and so your life is empty and meaningless. So when life happens, you define life, then you define your life in it.
Absolutely.
And when they get it, they go, okay. So right now, what's happening to me right now, I'm making this happen because I'm defining, okay, now how do I stop doing that? Well, stop defining. So we need to get some new language.
Absolutely.
Right? So now they start to get that. Now what you want to do is be present to the language you're speaking to yourself, because you know that words don't describe the world, words create your world.
Absolutely.
So every time I open my mouth, like the book of Genesis, in the beginning there was word, and the word man named all things. So now every time I open my mouth, I'm now creating a new world with my words.
Absolutely.
So if you don't like it, stop it.
Absolutely.
Right?
So what you're really doing is you're asking them to look at their internal dialogue, and you're reminding them that we create our lives.
Yes.
So if you're clean and healthy and happy inside, well, on the outside, you can also get that same manifestation of goodness, health, happiness, joy, peace, and prosperity.
Absolutely. And when we get that, who we are is love, and so then your job is to go back to where, and we tell them, you don't become an emerging leader because you complete the academy. We can give you a piece of paper. A piece of paper doesn't make you anything.
It doesn't.
Right. It just says you did something.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you are that.
Right.
So you don't get to be an emerging leader until you go out and give it away. So emerging leaders itself is the introductory course. Your life is the advanced course.
Absolutely.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
I love that statement that you just made, that the piece of paper does not define you. I just had a conversation with a patient about 3 weeks ago who's had some hard times, and he said, Dr. Levi, I'm from the ghetto, and I do this and I do that and that. And I said, you know what? Because you're from the ghetto is not necessarily in you, and you're not defined by coming from the ghetto. You define your life by who you want to be. And he and I talked for about 45 minutes to really remind him that where we are doesn't define us.
Yes.
We're defined by our character, by our honesty, and more importantly, I believe, by the highest art of humanity, which is service, what we give back.
Yes.
And we know we only get what we're willing to give away.
Yes. We have them define their purpose. As they find their purpose, you go, like, if my purpose is to, the quality that I didn't get in life is acknowledgement. Well, then I'm going to give acknowledgement. Right. And so I'm going to be acknowledging people, helping people, making people feel better. And then I got to get that when they don't accept it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Of course.
Right? So if I know that's my purpose, then if somebody gives me a job at Walmart as a greeter, that would be a good job for me. But somebody putting me in a cubicle where I don't get to interact with people, I would go bananas.
Right. It doesn't work for you.
But if another person is what I didn't get enough in my life is peace. And then you try to make me a Walmart greeter, it's not going to work very well. I need a cubicle.
Absolutely.
Right? So
you have to remind them of who they are, not necessarily where they're from, but more importantly, where they're going, and that they matter. I've always thought that one of the basic issues in America, actually in the world globally, is this issue of self-worth. That many people believe they're not worthy of prosperity, that they're not worthy of a great relationship, that they're not worthy of love. And I think unless you believe you're worthy, then how can these things come knocking at your door when you're saying, if you come knock, I'm still not going to open the door?
Yes. So we go, we have this exercise we do. What do you know to be true about you? And it's right before you put something good on top of it. So I'm I'm worthless. I'm an addict. I'm and some other things I can't really say on here. But and we fill up this board with it because the board is empty. And I go, so as a child, you were a blank canvas, and then people begin to fill you in, and we fill up this whole board, and we have all these negative things, and go, so is any of this true? And they go, no. And I go, because I ask, why'd you wear what you wore today? And somebody will tell me, I go, do you know you just made that up? And they go, and then I go, what do you think I just said? They said, you called me a liar. I said, I didn't call you a liar. I said, you made it up.
Right.
And I go, what do you mean? I said, did you know I was going to ask you at this time on this day? They go, no. And I go, then where did the answer come from? They go, it's made up. I go, all this is made up too.
Exactly,
right?
it is.
And so I slowly erase the board and I go, so your whole life has been dominated by something that was made up that's not true, right? And so if that's made up, then what else could we make up?
Absolutely.
And then we start putting on who I am as powerful, who I am as confident, who I am as unstoppable, who I am as loving, who I am as worthy.
Right.
And then we fill that board up and we go, okay, now look at the board and whatever speaks to your spirit, take 3 of those words off. Right. And then we have them create this thing that who I am is powerful. Who I am is unstoppable.
Right.
Who I am is a space for miracles, or who I am is gratitude. Who I am is loving. Whatever it is, but we'd have them pick 3, and we go stand in a world of nothing, void, and then proclaim that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you see a shift, like you see.
I'm sure it's like that.
Yes.
It has to be instantaneous.
Yes.
Because you're allowing them to use 2 of the most powerful words in the universe, which are I am.
Yes.
The I am presence, that consciousness to say I am prosperity, I am joy, I am success, I am fearless.
Yes.
When you give them that, it will shift them on a cellular level to be a different person, not only on a human aspect, but spiritually. They have to shift.
Yes. And when they get that, man, it's just like, it's so profound because you
feel it too.
And it's just like, man, when you get it, and when somebody says it and they
believe
it's to
it.
their core,
yes,
everybody in the room feels it. And I go, here's the thing: when you walk out into the world, everybody that's in your space gets to be who you are as a being, or you get to be whoever they are.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And you get to choose
whatever you want,
your word or circumstance.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And when the people get that, they realize how much power they have. And then when they fall back into something, they go, you know what? I stopped being my word. And what we do is we give them a structure. What rules do I need to put in place in order to follow this life?
Absolutely.
And then what practices do I need to put in place? And where do I need to be persistent because I know I might fall off? We create that structure for them. As a matter of fact, we're doing that right now in class today.
Really?
They're creating that structure, and then they create these are the action steps that I'm going to put forward to carry forward in my life. And I go, wherever you fall off is where you stop following the rules that you set for yourself, because here you got to get, this is your creation. This is not what the world's giving you. So you've been living a cause and effect life. You don't have to live a cause and effect life. Now you're living a life from your own creation.
Absolutely.
Right. And now, but the thing is, you have to be responsible for it, because you can't blame
Nobody
Dr. Levi.
else.
You can't blame You can't blame Clyde. You can't blame your mom and dad. You can't blame nobody else.
Just
it's yours now. It's yours now. Yeah.
You give them that chance to really express who they really are.
Right.
Now, what do you do, for example, to remind them to not look at some of the quote-unquote difficult times in their lives? For example, my father, used to beat my mom. He was a wife beater. He was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. And I still always loved him. At times it was difficult, but in the end, I still loved him, because I've always thought he taught me how not to treat women.
Right.
He taught me how not to drink. He taught me not to shoot up. He taught me not to smoke. So I'd like to know, what do you do to remind them that every teacher that they have in life is a good teacher? They either teach you what to do, or they definitely teach you what not to do.
Well, I think that the interesting thing is that we stopped and get them to get what quality did I get from that? So if my father was abusive, what did you find? What did you learn? That it hurts to hurt people.
Absolutely.
Right? So then you learn compassion.
Absolutely.
You learn tolerance.
Yes.
You learn patience. Oh, you wouldn't have gotten that. So you got to get. So we always say, okay, look. So I was born to these parents, and my parents made me, and I'm this way because of my parents. Or let's just say that you knew before you filled this physical body that you were coming.
Of course.
And you accepted this assignment, and you asked for these parents because you were going to learn these lessons. And I go, the problem is people forgot that they asked to come here.
Right.
And they get caught in the circumstance, but the circumstance was a lesson.
Absolutely.
And all the other stuff you're supposed to leave behind. So let me just get the lesson and move forward with the lesson.
Right.
And so that as I'm looking at the end of my life and I'm looking back,
Right.
I'm looking, I went through that because of that. I was supposed to get that quality. And now that if I'm living my purpose, and I go, that's why I was so good at this, because that helped me live. Now, or I could be like, you know what? I'm going to have to come back and do this again.
I didn't get that lesson good enough. I didn't get that lesson. Right. I got to come back.
Yes, right.
Can I get a ticket, please?
Yes, right. And I go, and I told him, neither one of those is true.
Right.
Now, which one empowers you?
Exactly.
Right. And I go, because
they have a choice.
Yes, because the thing we've been told is that I can't do this because, and I'm this way because of my parents. I'm this way because I'm black.
Right. Or the man.
Or the man, where the man hold me
or
down.
They said. I always say, who is they?
Yeah.
Show me those people.
Yeah. So when they get that, they go, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So a lot of times when they come back, they go, man, I go to do something, and they tell me, dude, you in my head, man. I was about to do this. Or like I had a guy who told me, said his brother got shot. His brother was killed. And he said he had just created Who I Am. It's powerful, reborn, and committed. Right?
Great words.
And his brother got shot. So he created like that Thursday. His brother got shot that Friday.
Right.
He went to the hospital, and he's a G in his neighborhood.
Right.
And Mexican kid.
Right.
And he says, man, everybody's waiting on me to tell me to let's go make a move. And he says, man, and I hear your voice in my head. And he said, I couldn't do it.
That's great.
He says, so I couldn't say anything. I walked out of the hospital, and he says his aunt calls him and says, thank you, mijo. She says, because when you walked away, they didn't know what to do, and they didn't go do anything.
Which is a blessing.
She says, you don't know how many lives you saved.
Absolutely.
And he says, Clyde, I just want to share that with you. He says, because of that, I didn't go commit a crime. And even to this day, and this is like 4 years later,
yes,
he says, I always remember that. And he says, I can't believe that I didn't do it. And he says, that's why I really believe that my words are important.
Yes,
because he says, because I had to be reborn.
Absolutely.
I had to be reborn in order, because that was his word, reborn.
He said that.
Yeah, he said that. And he says, I had to be reborn not to take those actions, because the old me would have done, it would have been a war, right?
Right.
And so, that's why I know it's working, but I tell him, it's like anything else. If you don't practice it, it doesn't become a habit.
It doesn't. It doesn't. I just want to thank you for coming to the station today.
Right.
Two, how do people contact you through ELA? I want to hear about the website, your social media platforms. Right. How do they connect with you?
Our website is www.emergingleaders360.org.
Okay.
Our website is being worked on because I have to figure out, because I'm paying for this whole thing out of my pocket. Right. I've been doing it, and I just recently retired to do this full time.
Yes.
I took a $60,000 pay cut to do this, and so now I need to start working on funding.
Of course.
So it's like, do I pay for this or do I pay for a website? So our website's in work, it's in progress.
Right.
But www.emergingleaders360.org.
And about Facebook?
And on Facebook, where you can go to Clyde Terry. There's an emblem of Emerging Leaders. I have two Clyde Terry pages. One is my personal page, and the other one is the Emerging Leaders page, and it has the Emerging Leaders emblem.
Fantastic.
That's our group page and our graduate page and fan page. Okay. And then Instagram, we're on Emerging Leaders 360 on Instagram.
Fantastic.
And on Twitter, there's, I think, the same thing.
Great. And do you have any upcoming events that we can talk about just for like next 5 seconds before we go off the air?
We don't have any events coming up, but we have classes every 6 weeks, and anybody is free to come to the class. And if people are interested in donating and they want to see, the best thing is for them to come and experience it themselves.
Well, I want to remind everyone, Emerging Leaders Academy is a phenomenal way to promote change in society. I want to thank Clyde Terry for taking time to be with us today. And I want to remind anyone, if they want to donate, they are open for donation because they need that. He's doing this by himself. And I also want to let Clyde know that today, our show, the Dr. Levi Show, will be giving a $1,000 donation to the Empowerment Academy because they're making such a phenomenal difference here in Los Angeles. So again, it's Dr. Levi. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And of course, next week we'll have another great guest for you. And I want to remind you, of course, that we're going to have a call-in show soon. So get ready for that. It's coming up soon. And I want to thank you again for joining us on YouTube, as well as our other social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. We really appreciate you. Please join Clyde Terry. He's a phenomenal speaker, and we look forward to him writing a great book sometime soon. This is Dr. Levi. Take care, everyone. Don't forget, be kind to the veterans. Those men and women are the true heroes of America. Bye.